Hi, this is Joyce Polino-Crane. I am the news director at WestfordCAT. I'm here today with two locked out National Grid employees. And on my far right is Jim Pittman. He's a street technician and a Westford resident. And right next to me is Jim Mariolis. And he is the, let me get this right, Vice President?
Vice President, yes.
Of Local
1212, 12012.
Thank you.
12,012.
Thank you, Jim. And so I wanted to talk to you both about issues of safety in regard to gas. And this comes out of the events of just last week. Today is what, September 17th. Just last Thursday, Andover, North Andover, and Haverhill had these gas leaks that led to houses catching on fire.
Lawrence.
Did I say Haverhill?
That's okay.
I don't know why I said Haverhill. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's Andover, North Andover, and Lawrence. I lived in Andover for 13 years, I should just disclose, and I know Lawrence quite well. So I was very emotional about what happened. I have friends that live in Andover, and it was just, for me, almost unthinkable to be living in a community where you feel as safe as can be and have your house and approximately 80 other houses catch fire. There was an explosion on Chicory Road that sent a chimney flying, and it landed on a car. A young man who was 18 was sitting inside that car and died. I just cannot get over what happened. So I wanted you, Jim, to explain to me and the rest of Westford, what exactly do you think happened there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's still an ongoing investigation right now. But based on what we've heard, I mean, when we hear things that we have heard reported, overpressurization, and generally that can happen by higher pressure of gas. Your distribution system has different pressured lines. In some cases, it's 60 pounds for the ease of transporting. But if it gets used, most of your gas that you have for your heating, hot water, homes, only needs a quarter of a pound, or 7 inches water column. And how the line got overpressurized, very well, they were doing quite a bit of work from what I understand. That's something that's been ongoing with a lot of companies replacing aged pipe out in the field. And certainly it must have been something related to those lines being replaced.
Right.
And then you have to tie in the new line into some of the existing lines as you go along. And when they said that, what we heard, I believe, I haven't confirmed.
Right,
but
this is all speculation.
It's all speculative. There was a sensor line, and when I hear sensor line, it's some kind of a regulator. And a regulator basically is what is used to take gas from a higher pressure, transporting pressure, to a usable pressure, which you would use in your neighborhood for your local residences and to deal with some of the older lines, because cast iron has been around over 100 years, and some of the older infrastructure in the neighborhoods have been fine with these cast iron lines, but to transport and the demand, you have the higher pressure, so you'll have those lines, you'll need to keep these regulator stations. So it's very possible that something of that nature could have happened.
So there's not a system, or there is a system of checks and balances for when you're transporting gas? Is it possible all of those were bypassed accidentally, or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was checks and balances as far as, from experience. I mean, I've been on a couple of jobs we had in 2007 was very similar over pressurization. It was in Lexington, Massachusetts, and it was quite extensive. When this higher pressure gas goes into the low pressure, there was an explosion. There should be checks and balances. Obviously, if possibly that center line, if there was a center line still hooked up, attached to the piece of pipe that they were taking out,
right,
but it was still connected, it's still looking to push gas through these regulators, it's speculative.
Right.
But again, the other bigger piece is, how did this happen? Right from engineering to supervisory to out in the field, experience goes. You have to make sure that you every side talks to each other, each department. I mean, obviously there are certain departments, such as the regulation department, which deals with those regulators, with those gate stations, those stations that take gas from the transmission line. That's 600 pounds of pressure. That's how it transports gas through states. And you take that gas and you use that for your distribution lines to go to the local communities and the residents. It's possible that's what happened. I mean, but again, it's very hard to see how that. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, as we've seen, unfortunately, it can. And experience goes a long way of making sure that everybody's, on board with the whole process and nothing gets missed.
So we should just emphasize that an investigation is beginning, and it will probably go on for a couple of years before we ever learn. So we're speculating here on the set. I did want to ask you, Jim. Well, first let's clarify that this had nothing to do with National Grid. This was, you're National Grid, you were both National Grid employees.
That's correct.
You were both locked out because of a breakdown in negotiations over benefits. So you have not been working for 13, almost 14 weeks. The issue in Andover, North Andover, and Lawrence has had to do with Columbia.
Yes.
That's right.
Which is a different company altogether.
Our
Yes.
neighbors,
Your neighbors.
neighboring towns. We surround that area, sure. Lawrence being next to Tewksbury and our neighboring gas cities, yeah.
And so National Grid is not, I'm just curious, is National Grid not in in Andover and North Andover at all? Or is it kind of a combination of both? Do you know?
Primarily the distribution on the gas is Columbia.
Okay.
We have National Grid through Andover, just where Wilmington comes in
Yeah.
and Tewksbury comes into Andover. We kind of have just a little bit of pipe that goes over our towns that we serve, Tewksbury, Wilmington in, but primarily Columbia has the jurisdiction over the gas in those three towns.
Okay.
Cities.
One city, two towns.
Yes, but National Grid has the electric distribution.
Okay, because I do remember my bills. That makes sense. But I wanted to get to you, Jim. Can you tell us how many years of experience you have as a street technician and what you've gotten certified in to do the work you do?
Sure, not just myself, but all my coworkers, the locked up fellas I work with, the men and women. A lot of them joke around because they'll actually have two wallets. One of your wallets will be a personal license and your birth certificate, whatever you might carry, a credit card. And your other wallet is anywhere from plastic certifications, Class A, hazmat, double trailer, endorsed licenses. It goes on, and we get certified in all sorts of categories. But another thing I'd like to say is a big part that's more important than that wallet and the licensing is just the field experience. That takes a lot. I've been there 16 years. I would say it took me
16 years?
Yep. I would say before they send us out in two-man crews to gas leaks or do a gas installation for a service, I would say it took me at least 4 to 6 years before I was fully comfortable with dealing with some of those situations. And I think that's a very important part of the job. That's more important than any license I get, like a hoisting license.
And when there's main work done, like Forester Street, just last month wasn't there a pipe that was replaced right there here in Westford? Forester Road, Forester Street, Forest.
Forest Street,
Forest.
This is was right behind us right now.
Yeah.
That area, a lot of the water main got replaced. They had an old water main, but it's similar.
But is there a gas pipeline running alongside there?
There's gas mains and services not running next to it, but across from it and next to it and all around it. And usually, I know Jimmy has mentioned this word a few times, and it's inspectional oversight. A gas company employee should be there every single day overseeing where
Overseeing.
they're digging, and they communicate. That's been going on long before my time, and that has not been getting done.
Jim, what's your level of experience as a National Grid worker?
I have 31 years experience in the street department, which is the gas distribution department. And anywhere from putting in new lines to repairing leaks, operating equipment. And what I'm seeing, obviously, from some of the replacement workers out in the field, there's just some of them that they're less experienced. They don't do, the ones that do some of the new pipe installation, because the company will tell cities and towns, these contractors that they have out there, the same contractors that have the experience fixing leaks. We pretty much specialize in that, finding leaks. We haven't seen, we've had several complaints that we've put in with the Department of Public Utilities since we've been locked out of these things that it's second knowledge for us just by our repetition experience that haven't seen out in the field.
Yeah, your know-how. So they're putting, Jim, you've said this at selectmen's meetings, a finance manager, training them minimally, I guess. Is that
Look,
accurate? or?
the bottom line is about 14 weeks ago, prior to this lockout happening and moving into the lockout process, the people I see, I picket daily, and I go to job sites where replacement workers are. And like I said earlier, there'd be two of us, Jim and I, could go to any leak, any gas situation that you could think of possible in this area, the 13 towns surrounding us. As to now, what we see is 15 people, and some of them could have been in marketing or finance or just in-house managers or supervisors.
With people who haven't been on the street for 16 years.
Yeah, that's actually a better way to put it. People
Yeah.
who do not work in the street. And what I see personally, and I will go on record by saying this, what I see is they just can't handle these situations like we could. And I'll say that on record anywhere. They just are not doing the job we can do.
Yeah, it's one thing if they go and get what they call operator qualifications. They can go and get a quick down to learning department and take a test within 3 days on something, but to actually have the experience, perform the action. Again, it's important to know that with all the work being done, our company, National Grid, there's 1,200 of us locked out. Our union has almost 400 members. The other locked out group is Local 12003, Boston, gas workers. They have about 800 members. So it's about 1,200, 1,250 of us
Right.
that have been out. But I will say, the company's trying to say to us, and this is concerning, that they have 600 contractors and 700 management, to what Jim said. Of those 700, you might have one with experience. How spread out over a long area are they going out there with other people that might have been engineers or clerks or people that work in the office being trained to be helpers? Again, there's different levels. We don't know. There's a lot of questions. So.
I feel for the people who are being asked to be out on the street. If that's not what you're oriented towards doing, I would personally feel very uncomfortable being put in that position. But I do want to get back to the lockout and talk a little bit more about it. But before we do, I have this question about that main line going in to the 3 communities. Every single house was on that one main line?
Obviously,
Every house in all
obviously,
3 communities?
if the cities and towns have the older lines in them that can't handle the higher pressures, meaning cast iron pipes, sometimes there's bare steel, but primarily cast iron pipes. And some of those cities and towns have been around for years. As I said earlier, over 100 years, some of the pipes have been fine. And the only thing sometimes that'll bother cast iron is when you dig around them and you loosen the area of the soil around them, you can cause a crack. Or in the wintertime, if you have the same cast iron pipes and the ground freezes down to the level of the pipe, it could, by freezing and thawing, crack the pipe as well. So we always are very mindful of that, and we have leak surveys, we check there. But to your point, sometimes to replace all those miles of pipe, again, where is the incentive for some of the companies of doing that? Well, now there is some incentive, as I might have said earlier, but certainly these leak-prone pipes that's getting replaced now, the older infrastructure, cities and the companies are getting incentivized to recapture some of that money back. Certainly in National Grid, they do have plans on replacing so many miles of pipe, which should be nothing wrong with that, as long as it's done obviously in a thought out, careful manner with strict enough oversight, because I've watched just in the last 5-7 years, contractor crews out doing work out in the fields doubled and tripled. And again, that's okay, but if you are getting that work done, is there enough inspectors out there? Obviously, we have union inspectors, but we can't be at every job all the time. We keep trying to engage our company to keep that level of oversight, certainly from a supervisory level as well, in engineering, but sometimes the local knowledge of the area. Sometimes you could have contractors that they're not familiar with the area. They come in, when it comes to the maintenance and certain work, as Jim said earlier, I could tell you where the lines are, that water line that we spoke of earlier.
Right.
You have a certain level of service that we feel is not happening right now.
You've got the institutional knowledge.
Yes, and we have, example, say Chuck is the man that's in the department, what they call damage prevention, or Dave. They come out here every day. This is their area. They know. Yes, Gioso's coming up, for example, as contractor. They're coming up on that. They're doing sewer work, or they're doing water line replacement. Oh yes, they're coming up near that line. I know where that line is. It's just that constant oversight that gets lost. So you've got a couple of different parts of the job now. The rate of replacing pipe and who does the work. Of course, we as union workers, we would want to do all that, but the company does choose to outsource a lot of that work. We do some in-house main replacement. We also do in-house service replacement, putting in new services. If you have, say you bought a house or you have a house and it has oil and you want to go gas, we do that work as well.
Yeah, and that's pretty delicate work, I would imagine. You sure don't want to blow up the homeowner's home. Jim, when they replace a main pipe, do you know what is the material, what's the new pipe made out of?
It's a non-corrosive plastic.
It's a plastic.
Yes.
Non-corrosive plastic.
Yeah.
And that's what Columbia was trying to do in Andover, North Andover.
It appears that's what they were doing, yeah. They were putting, replacing a large amount of it. And eventually they'll replace all the cast iron. They try to prioritize the size of the pipe. Generally, anything under 8 inches diameter, they try to replace. 8 inch and above tends to, as I was saying earlier, it won't tend to crack or be as susceptible to certain other digging around, excavation, any other chances for it to break. So they are trying to concentrate on the 4-inch, 6-inch pipe that's out there. And obviously, apparently, there's a lot of that pipe that was out in that area. It was low pressure distribution and older lines.
So we have about 10 minutes left. Let's talk about the lockout, because I'm hearing there's a lot of undue strain on you. And, in all fairness, no one from National Grid is here to present the other side.
Sure.
They have spoken to me and issued statements that have said that they feel confident in the safety of how things are being handled. So, I just want to present that side of the issue. But Jim, you're locked out. You haven't worked in, I think you told me, almost 14 weeks.
I think we're in 13 now, yeah.
Yeah.
Since mid-June.
What's going on for you in terms of?
It's challenging. I think just personal experiences I've gone through in the past few days with a relationship or something you might be dealing with your children. And yeah, it's hard, but there's families out there that have spouses with cancer, and they have children that have $120 on a special formula, and same families. And the 4-year-old boy in Boston with the cancer and removing the kidneys. There's a handful of situations here that
let's just clarify, when you talk about health issues, National Grid has taken away your health insurance benefits.
That's right. Day one, they took the health insurance away.
Okay.
As, in my opinion, a tactic and a labor battle, and I don't think that's anywhere near remotely a classy move. there's some really needy families that just didn't deserve that.
Are you able to collect unemployment? Because I assume you have no salary now, too. Or,
Yeah.
Or do you?
Unemployment ironically matches that price that you would probably pay as if you're a divorced parent for child support. That's which is nice.
Oh, yeah,
but,
I know, it's very low.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah. But it's something coming in, right?
it is. I don't know if it's really fair for me to say what kind of numbers a lot of
Oh, no, we
families
don't have
lost,
numbers.
but
Yeah.
it's a challenging time.
Yeah,
Sure.
I will say, though, obviously on the unemployment piece of it,
Yeah.
ironically, conversely, the last time, 1993, there was a labor stoppage, a work stoppage. It was these same two local unions, Local 1212 and Local 1203.
Great.
They were locked out. Same as situation here by Boston Gas. They didn't get unemployment, but it did change then and there that they were eligible to collect unemployment because they didn't abandon their jobs, just as we haven't.
You have not.
We haven't been abandoning our
Right.
jobs. If it was a strike situation, that's a different story.
Right.
But the law did change to make eligible people that are locked out eligible for unemployment.
Jim, tell us, what are the issues between the union and National Grid? What are you guys looking for?
Yeah, basically, we're looking to just maintain, in one word, and just to go a little bit more on that, we have had a long, hard bargaining history with National Grid now since they have bought us in 2007. This is our fourth contract with this company. 2009, very difficult. Then it was some health insurance. It was also our jobs and job descriptions. And how long the steps and to try to suppress wages for a longer period of time, on top of asking for more of the premium paid. But we got through it. And then the next contract was 2012. The company's concessionary theme was to outsource some of our critical work, like marking these gas lines, as we've talked earlier, going out, trying to prevent damages out there, marking out, you'll see the yellow marks. They wanted to outsource that along with coming to your house to, when they're doing the main replacement work, as we just spoke about earlier.
Right.
Comes to your house and ties back in the new gas line into your existing house piping and your piping. We were able to prevent both those issues. It was very difficult, and we paid dearly for it. We had no % raise. First year, it was a 4-year contract from 2012 to 2016, 4 years. We got no raise, and just to be, but we were able to stop them from outsourcing our work.
So-
They also went up on healthcare then. 2016,
So to preserve what you had, you gave up.
we've been paying every time with this company, and now they've locked us out. But that's what happened just, so when the contract expired in 2016, just 2 years ago, we had the same issues that we were dealing with, and we were able to get a 2-year agreement. Needless to say, unfortunately, it seems that the company took the last 2 years to prepare for this lockout. And we're just trying to keep health care and also the same level of benefits that we've earned we've paid for a long period of time, such as the pensions, medical retirements, just benefits that if I'm working and you're working alongside me, putting in a career, you should have the same benefits.
And so they were their National Grid would like to allow you to keep your retirement benefits, the older long-term workers, but the new workers coming in would get less?
At this point,
Yeah.
because there is a concern that, we talk to people, what would be next? It's always something with this company. I sit at the table, as I said earlier, I'm the vice president, so I sit there. They're always looking for some big concessions. What next would they would go after, I would suspect, people on the property. I would suspect.
What do you mean, people on the property?
Well, sometimes you get your pensions cashed out under a certain amount of years if you're on the property. They've done that to other places.
What does that mean, cashed out?
Well, I'll give you an example. If they say anybody that has less than 20 years, we propose to give you a certain amount of actuarial amount that you have based on what you would have for your pension, traditional pension.
I see.
Here it is. We're done now with the pension for you. It's very possible. That's what she
Does
said.
that mean the employee walks away with less than he would have?
It's possible because, as you know, 401k or anything else, it's a supplement. It shouldn't be just a retirement benefit like pensions are designed to be. And, we understand that happens in a lot of the places in the country, but certainly with this company and based on the history bargaining, they should bargain our own individual deal, agreement. And that's all we want to do. We want to be treated fairly.
Jim, we just have about 3 minutes left. What do you want to see happen?
With the contract?
Yeah, with the negotiations and the contract.
I mean,
What's the ideal outcome?
If you ask me, and I don't want to get into numbers of the company, they're not here to back that up, but I mean, a company that, has a strong stock and is not financially hurting, and you take, maybe some tax breaks and rate hikes and, 20-something% profit each year, and then you turn around to families that have been here for 30, 40, 45 years, and you want to turn around and offer them less. I just don't. And the style of the way they took the health insurance away, I don't get it. We're not asking for raises. We're not asking for, anything astronomical. We do a dangerous job. We've earned everything we have. And the people that have been passed on and older and generations before us in Keyspan and Colonial Gas, they worked hard for these things and they passed that on to us. And I would like to maybe pass that on to my children because in my opinion, what's being offered to my children and younger people coming into a job like this, they're gonna have a hard time.
But
And there's no reason for it because it's not like it's a company that's struggling to take
No.
care of 400 families in this area.
But
It makes no sense.
But Jim, National Grid says we don't want to have to pass the cost of this on to our customers. What do you say to that?
What I say is they're certainly looking for a rate increase right now. They just got the tax cuts from the Trump tax cuts. Certainly, we've asked them, show us how you're going to give the savings of that tax cut to them, and we've yet to get a solid answer. So I say right now, National Grid's profits keep going up. We don't begrudge anybody, I mean, obviously, from working and making a living. We're just trying to maintain what we have. And again, there's no economic necessity here. Bargaining is, again, collective bargaining. We want to be treated as we have it. That's why I took a few minutes to explain to you, since National Grid came in 2009, 2012, 2016.
Yeah, I didn't
Always
realize.
some big concessions here.
Yeah.
That's important to point out. And we're just trying to we want to bargain, and we will get there. There was no need to lock us out here. And again, I think the public generally, understands that we're just trying to maintain. We do our job, as Jim said. We do it well. We do it safe. We're not begrudged to any. Productivity is very important to us, but it's not the sole thing. Safety is very important, first and foremost, and doing our job with the public. So I say just that I think if the company gives us just reasonable cost of living, I mean, again, that's all we're trying to do is keep what we have and maintain.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you both for coming in today on a moment's notice. I really appreciate that you did that. And we'll follow this story as it unfolds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For WestfordCAT News, this is Joyce Polino Crane. See you around town.